Today I will summarize 1 year of AI-driven development experience. In 2024, I started playing the trendy vibe coding game, learning one project at a time how agentic development really works. And it took me about 8 months to master the principle that I'm about to share with you today. Principles that apply and will apply to any new trends or LLM models or AI development software. Because there is no magic. For a reliable process, we need to master 3 things. The prompt engineering, the context engineering with an extensive RAG memory, and spec-driven development methodology. And in this video, I will cover my entire process, the tools I use, and how I use them to avoid infinite debugging and dead-end products. So welcome, I'm Amaury, founder and CEO at MyCTOfriend, where founders come to learn how to build their tech startup. And with this Startup Snack series available on both podcast and YouTube, we want to share the essential to make it easier for you to build your tech startup. And last year, I started to share how to develop software with AI, trying to structure what people later called vibe coding. The results were okay, but not outstanding. And luckily, having worked as a CTO on hundreds of startups projects, led me to detect when the AI goes off track. And that experience pushed me to find a better approach. And if you want to save hundreds or thousands of debugging nightmares, you have to understand the big difference between vibe coding and agentic development. Vibe coding is what non-technical person does with tools like bolt.new, Lovable, or code agents. AI build me an app with no idea of what the AI is doing. This is the hope for the best path. You get hundreds of unnecessary files, tons of bugs, weird fixes, features rebuilt 3 times with an architecture not adapted for your solution. But don't get me wrong, vibe coding can be amazing for brainstorming, tiny prototype, or landing page, but not for a production-ready web or mobile application. At least, not yet. But agentic development is totally different. It's AI-driven development managed and supervised by technical humans. Someone who knows how to build software and guides the AI to perform the action they would do themselves, just 10x or 50x faster. People think it's about prompt engineering, but it's not enough to get a smooth process without pitfalls. And the secret relies in 3 core principles we just talked about: the prompt engineering, the context engineering, and the spec-driven development. Let's go one by one, starting with prompt engineering. You know, LLMs like OpenAI, Claude have limited working memories or tokens. If we want them to be effective, the key is to give them shortcuts to what is important to execute an action. So every prompt should remind the AI a goal, what you want and why, a scope, exactly where to change things, and provide inputs, docs, constraints to do it right. Here is, for example, a prompt that I used in the past on a real app. I am specifying here the parent screen, where I want to change, the add button to check update, what the actions is supposed to be, what is supposed to display, and what triggers potentially an update. And I also provide, for your information, you have the expo.dev documentation in this directory. And guess what? As a technical person, I downloaded this documentation and I've put it here in this directory, just to help the LLM. It is a shortcut for the LLM to know how it works. This is a good start, but it is not enough to make your development reliable. And also, we can't copy and paste the whole product specifications or documentation in every prompt. So the first step to improve the process and to be more precise with your prompt is to use a role or a command on your AI software, or editing software. For example, currently on my Claude code, I've imported multiple agent roles commands that are better at certain things like debugging, generating tests, writing specifications. These are great ways to pre-frame the LLM for what are expected. But it is not enough to be very specific to your project. That's why we need to dive into the context engineering. In other words, we need to embed rules and knowledge so the AI remembers how we build software, and more specifically, our software. And there is 2 levels for context engineering. The level 1 is the environment rules. That's why we had our Cloud.md or Agent.md with how we structure the software, what development principle to follow. For instance, it could be test-driven development or end-to-end test after implementing new features, naming or folder conventions, committing style, etc. But again, giving the LLM too many rules will burn memory. The LLM will compress and forget. So the solution is also to combine it with a level 2, with a RAG memory, a searchable knowledge base the AI can pull from. Here is how it works. It means that the LLM that will be in charge of coding will have access to an extensive knowledge base through what we call an MCP connection. Having access to thousands of documentation well organized and classified so that the LLM can search for information and only retrieve what is useful for his upcoming tasks. And for that role, I tested it 3 technologies: Context 7, Deep Wiki, and ArchonOS. Context 7 is great. This is the best way to load libraries docs to your LLM to stay up to date. But it's quite harder to add your own project documentation, which is why it's not my top choice as of today. The second, Deep Wiki generates a developer-friendly wiki by analyzing your source code. It shares the generated documentation with your AI agent, again with MCP, and it is very promising, but the workflow remains a bit complex as of now. That's why now I would like to introduce the ArchonOS. That's my favorite one to get started. We just install it on our computer. It uses a shared database for teams. It can crawl docs you specify for Stripe, Supabase, or Google API, or whatever library of documentation you need from the web. It lets you create your own business doc and reference them with a unique ID in your prompt. And your AI agent can by himself write back document after creating, let's say, for a new API endpoint, for instance. You have everything centralized in one point, in one software. That's why for me, this is the most convenient option I found, at least to get started, with effective RAG memories that knows public software libraries and methodologies and your own project documentation. Always available to your AI development tools via MCP connection. So now you might think, that's enough to perform well with AI-driven development? And no, unfortunately. The most crucial part and most important part is the third one, spec-driven development. You know, in real life, even with a proper architecture, we still need 2 roles to develop a feature. The developer, the one who will write the code, and the person who specifies the features. The product side, ensuring the logic between features and business needs. Because if you give a developer a one-line feature description, you will not get exactly what you expect. Exactly same thing with AI, by the way. You will probably create confusions or bugs with existing features. And that's why we create 2 documents, the PRD and the PRP. The PRD is the product requirements document. It defines what needs to be built. It's a high-level description. Who is it for? What's the outcome? And what's the user workflow? Then out of this PRD, the AI can generate what we call a PRP, a product realization plan, which defines how it will be built technically. So this is the high-quality input the AI developer needs to only edit relevant files, to develop the new feature where it belongs, without reconsidering the entire architecture and without breaking or removing existing features. That's real story. It happened to everyone who tried to vibe coding. Sometimes AI get crazy. And if you are starting a real product or a big product, and if you are on the business side, you might also consider to create a BRD, a business requirements document, which is the foundation for building a great product. It defines what are the business needs and why, focusing on the users, their problems, the market context, including competitors' analysis and existing solutions. So in a nutshell, the BRP provides the business context, the PRD provides the product context, and the PRP provides the source code context. And that is the proper spec-driven development process to follow. So now you might think, Okay, but how to get started with that? Well, luckily for us, some experts have already worked hard, very hard on creating workflow and frameworks and tools to help us move forward from BRP to PRD to PRD. No, BRP to PRD to PRP. And as of today, the three quite known frameworks that are helping with that are the BMAD method, the Spec Kit, and OpenSpec. And be ready to welcome some more frameworks like that in the near future, as these type of frameworks are the backbone of any AI-driven development process. And that's also basically what vibe coding tools does on the backend, but without your control. So to be straightforward, here are my conclusions regarding these tools. OpenSpec is focused on micro changes, micro features. Spec Kit is a bit better, as it works with 5 steps. Development principle, the constitution, specify, plan, to plan the development, break down into small tasks, and implement. This one is pretty good, and it's also why it has been created by GitHub themselves. Now for bigger projects and more complex projects, my favorite one is the BMAD method. BMAD reproduces the same analysis as a human team would perform. It produces the PRD and PRP that keeps development smooth and reliable over time. It's not the fastest or the simplest one, but it's by far the most reliable way to create a long-term architecture that can be edited by both humans and AI. And what is great is that it also works with existing code based using the Brownfield approach, which is just amazing for existing team or product. So what have we learned in this video? First, vibe coding is totally different than agentic development. We need to keep things under control. And to build a reliable software, we need a clear prompt with role-based command, a context engineering with RAG memory, and spec-driven methodology using frameworks like OpenSpec, Spec Kit, or BMAD method for bigger projects. I really hope this content was useful for you, and if that's the case, be sure to subscribe and drop us a comment down below. And if you are interested in speeding up your product development, just contact me on MyCTOfriend.co. I will be happy to hop on a call with you to see how we can help you, no matter if you already have a team or not. And until then, take care and let's build amazing products.